access to this session. So now here today, we're going to do this basic. We're still under the topic algebraic expressions. That's what we are still doing. So now here we're going to talk about the product of two binomials. So remember, when you talk about when you talk about a binomial, what are we talking about? Is an algebraic expression of the sum between two terms, right? When you have two terms, we are referring to an expression that is a binomial. For an example, when you have x plus x squared, these are two different terms, and this expression, it is called binomials because binomial, it is separated by positive sign. So x and x squared, there are two different terms separated by this positive sign. Even if you have a negative sign, even if when you have a negative sign does also separate the terms. So that means we have two terms. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's how we see an example of a binomial. So now, what is a product? A product is what we get when we multiply, right? For example, 2 multiplied by 2, what will be the product? The product will be 4. So that means the product, it is a result that we get when we are multiplying. So basically, here we're going to multiply two binomials. Like for an example, let's say I have this binomial, which is x plus x squared. This is binomial. And then I have another binomial, which is x minus x. So when I multiply these two binomials, I'm going to get a product. We know how to multiply two binomials. But in order for us to multiply by the binomials, there are certain factors that we're gonna have to take into consideration. So we're gonna do a quick recap, which I believe this is what you have already spoke about in grade 9. Now the recap is here. Let's say for an example, we have A and we want to multiply this A with these two terms. Our two terms inside of the bracket, it will be B and C. Let's say we want to multiply this binomial, which is B plus C, by A. Remember the bracket, it simply means that we're going to have to multiply. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do what you call a distribution law. So meaning we're going to take this A and multiply inside of the bracket. Now when we say A multiply by B, we're going to get AB. And when we say A multiply by C, we're going to get AB. And therefore now this is our product that we're going to get when we multiply a binomial by A. Okay, this is our product. Again, when we have a negative A, just like this, remember B plus C is an example of a binomial. So when you multiply this binomial by negative A, the product that we're gonna get is gonna be this product over here. So that means we're gonna multiply inside of the bracket with negative A. So when we say negative A multiply by positive B, we're gonna get a negative AB. When we say negative A multiply by positive C, we're gonna get negative AC. Basically, what is happening here is all what we call the distribution. Okay? All right. So now we're gonna consider these two binomials. We have this binomial, which is x plus 3, and then we have this binomial, which is x plus 4. If we want to multiply these two binomials, what are we going to do? We're going to use a method that we call FOIL. I believe we all still remember on how to multiply using FOIL method, whereby F, it simply means first, and then O, it simply means outer, and then I, it simply means inner, and L, it simply means last. So in this case, grade 10 learners, when we multiply these two binomials, we still need to abide by these simple basic principles. I understand you did this in grade 9, but you still need it here in grade 10 until you move to grade 12. So now let's have a look on how to multiply these two binomials, which is x plus 3 and x plus 4. So we're going to have to say first, out, inner, and last, okay? So meaning we're gonna say f multi x multiplied by x, it's basically gonna give us x to the power of 2. And then we're gonna say x multiplied by positive 4, we're gonna get positive 4x. And we're gonna say 3 multiplied by x, we're gonna get 3x. And then we're gonna say 3 multiplied by 4, we get 12. And therefore now we have just expanded this bracket by just multiplying, we get our product. And therefore we simplify this expression further by adding the like terms. X squared is just gonna go down there because it doesn't have any like term. So that means 3x plus 4x, these are two like terms, and we're gonna add them. So what will be 3x plus 4x? It will most definitely be, it won't be 12x. Here is a mistake. So that means we know that 3 plus 4, it actually yields to 7. So that means we're going to have to redo this. So here it's supposed to be 7x, okay, plus 12 as it is. So this is how we multiply two binomials, okay? We abide by the law of the FOIL. Now let's have a look at the examples that we're going to work on to using the product of two binomials. Now, here we have questions. Most definitely, you can be provided with questions like this in examination, and actually, indeed they can ask you these kind of questions in exam grade 12 question, grade 10 question paper. So now let us try to solve 2.1. But firstly, let us read the statement and hear what the statement wants us to do. The statement reads as follows. It says to us, simplify the following. Make sure you show all your work. So when they say make sure that you show all your work, what does the term simplify mean? Meaning we have to break it down, okay? We have to break it down into a smaller form. We want to simplify it. We want to make it look simpler. So now let's have a look at 2.1. We are given the expression. Our expression for question number 2.1, we need to simplify it. So let's rewrite the question. We have negative 5, a subtract 6, okay? Now they want us to simplify this. What are we doing here? We can see that we have the bracket. The bracket simply means multiplication. We have negative 5. We are multiplying our negative 5 with a binomial. In this case, our binomial, it's a minus 6. So these are two terms inside of the bracket. Now let us multiply. So we're going to say negative 5 multiplied by positive a. Most definitely, we're going to get negative 5a. And therefore, we're going to have to say negative 5 multiplied by negative 6. Remember, negative by negative, it is most definitely going to be positive. And therefore, what will be 5 multiplied by 6? It will be positive 30. And therefore, we cannot add these numbers further. Therefore, this will be our final answer for 2.1.1. Now we move to 2.2.2, whereby we have 2 times negative 2a plus 4b. We still abide to the very same rule or the very same statement. So here we have 2 terms once more again, and then we have 2. So let's multiply these 2 terms, which is a binomial, by positive 2. Now let us distribute. So we're going to have to say 2 multiplied by negative 2a, negative 2 multiplied by negative 2a, it will be negative. We multiply the numbers. 2 multiplied by 2, it will be 4a. And therefore, by further multiplying this, we're going to have to say 2 multiplied by 4b. We know that 2 multiplied by 4, it will be 8, and b, meaning we're gonna have 8b. We cannot really add these terms further to simplify them. So that means this will be our final answer. It's simple, and I know you all understand what is basically happening. Here is just a quick reminder, and this is what you're going to be assessed onto. Now we move to 2.3. Remember, the questions will get much more complex as they build up. So now when we try to solve question number 2.2, 2.3, sorry about that, they say to us we have an expression which is negative 7 subtract x. Now what is basically happening over here? We want to multiply this negative inside of the bracket where we have the binomial. Remember, this is binomial, product of two binomials. So this is the same as -1, right? So we can simply just say -1 by +7. Apparently here we're going to get -7. And therefore -1 multiplied by -1x. Negative by negative, it will most definitely be positive x over there. And therefore there is nothing we can further do. This will be our final answer, which is the product of this binomial and -1. Now we move to question number 2.4, where we have our expression being x plus 2, x plus 5. Now here once more again, we have two binomials. We need to multiply these two binomials together. So now what are we going to do? Now we no longer have expression that looks like this. We have expression that looks like this where you multiply binomial by binomial. So here's where we're going to use FOIL, okay? We're going to have to say x multiplied by x is going to give us x to the power of 2. We're going to have to say x multiplied by 3x is going to be positive 3x. Now we move to this one. And then positive 2 multiplied by positive x is going to be positive 2x. And then positive 2 multiplied by positive 3 is going to be positive 6. Is this our final answer? No, it's not our final answer because we need to simplify this further. So that means let us have a look at terms that are considered to be the like terms. We can see that 3x and 2x, let me just say positive 3x and positive 2x, they are both like terms. Now these two numbers, these two terms, they do not have like terms. That means we're just going to rewrite them as they are. So x squared, x squared. Therefore, this and this, 3 plus 2, it will most definitely give us 5x. And therefore, positive 6 will move down as it is because it doesn't have its other like term. And therefore, voila, this will be our final answer of the multiplication of these two binomials. Remember, the questions will get more complex and more complicated as they build up. Let's just abide to the rules and the basics. Now, here we have two binomials once more again. So here we have question number 2.5. So here we have x subtract 4, x plus 3. Now we need to simplify this expression. Again, we apply FOIL. We're going to say x multiplied by x is going to be x to the power of 2. And then we're going to have to say x multiplied by 3 is going to be positive 3x. Now we move to -4. Now we're going to say -4 multiplied by x. It's going to be -4x. Now we're going to say -4 multiplied by +3. Now we're going to have negative by positive. It's negative. And then 4 multiplied by 3, it will most definitely be 12. This is not fully simplified. Let us write the final answer then. Now here we're going to have x squared, and therefore these are like terms. Positive 3x, negative 4x. When you 3 minus 4, we get negative 1x. Remember, 1, it is invisible, and therefore this doesn't have like term. Therefore, we're going to rewrite it as it is. Therefore, this will be our final answer. Now we move to 2.6. Now 2.6, it says to us we have x plus 7 multiplied by x subtract 1. And therefore we need to multiply this once more again. We're going to have to distribute x multiplied by x. It will be x squared. And then x multiplied by -1, it will be negative x. 7 multiplied by x, it will be positive 7x. And then what will be 7 multiplied by negative 1? It will be negative 7. Now let us add the like terms, negative x, positive 7x. When we add these two terms together, you're going to get positive 6x subtract 7. And then this will be our final answer of this product over there. Now, I'm just going to left this one over here, which 2.7 and 2.8 moving downwards will be your homework. Now I'm going to pick a different question from these two questions, okay? Remember, this is your work. You need to expand this fully and then we'll mark them later on. So I'm going to add 2.9. We have 2.9 and 2.10. So I'm just going to add 2.9 over here. So now 2.9, it says to us, we have negative x plus 1 to the power of 2. This is 2.9. We still use the same statement where we need to simplify this expression over here. So how are we going to simplify this expression over here? Let me rewrite it. So we have negative x plus 1 to the power of 2. So now simplifying this expression over here. Now this is where you need to understand your basics of math very well, okay? I understand that you are looking at the term inside of the bracket. The term inside of the bracket, it is true, it's a binomial. And you have learned that when you have the brackets just like this, and then you have a binomial, you're going to have to multiply this negative 1 inside of your bracket. But in this case, that won't be mathematical. You won't be able to multiply negative 1 inside of the bracket. Why? Because you have squared over there. If we had something like this, now it's easy for us to multiply this negative inside of the bracket, where we can just simply say negative 1 by positive x will get negative x. Negative 1 by positive 1 will get negative 1. This is 100% correct. This is mathematical. But this, where you're going to say this multiplied by that, it's, I don't know, negative x, and then maybe you're going to say this is negative 1 to the power of 2. This is wrong. This is not mathematical at all. Okay? So now let's do what is correct. Let me erase here. And there. Now, mathematically, before you can do this, this is what you're going to do. If you have squared, this simply means that this binomial, we're going to have to expand it into two brackets, okay? So that means we have x plus 1 multiplied by x plus 1. That means we have x plus 1. These two simply means we have two brackets of x plus 1. So we are expanding it first. Now we can see that we have two binomials, which is x plus 1 and x plus 1. And then we have the negative 1 outside of the brackets. So it is really up to you whether you start by multiplying negative 1 inside of this bracket or you start by multiplying these two brackets. It's up to you. But let us try firstly to multiply this negative inside of this binomial first. So I'm going to open the bracket. I'm going to say negative 1 multiplied by x. It will give me negative x. And then I'm going to say negative 1 multiplied by positive 1. It's going to give me negative 1. And then I'll close my bracket. And therefore, this bracket over here, I'm just going to rewrite it as it is. What I did is I just multiplied this binomial with this bracket. And therefore, this will be my product. Now I can multiply these two brackets just like 2.7 or just like the previous questions that we have already covered. So that means I'm going to have to say negative x multiplied by positive x. I'm going to get negative x squared because negative x multiplied by positive x, it will be negative x squared. And then negative x multiply by positive 1, it will be negative x. Now we jump to negative 1. Negative 1 multiplied by x, it will give me negative x. And negative 1 multiplied by positive 1, it will be negative 1. Now let us further add the like terms if they are there. Yes, they are there, negative x and negative x. And therefore negative x squared, we're just going to rewrite it as it is because it doesn't have its like term. And therefore negative x, it will give us negative 2x. And therefore negative 1 doesn't have a like term. We're just going to rewrite it as it is. And therefore this will be our final answer to this expression over here. Now I'm going to do 2.10, which is the last question. Now 2.10, it reads as follows. We have negative x plus 9 to the power of 2. Now we need to simplify this again. Now 2.10, I won't make it. It's yours to solve it. This is the last question out of the questions that we have covered. So 2.10, make it as activity 2.7 and 2.8, and therefore we'll take it from there.